Check test. Hello, hello. Looks like everything's working good. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. I'm just getting over a bit of a crud, little lung thing going on here. Still kind of congested. Hope everybody had a great week. Let's see. As always, as soon as the stream starts, it's like it drops and then people come back on. I don't get it. It's something with YouTube, I guess. But we'll hang here for a minute, kind of let folks get reconnected. We got Tim Myers in. Hi, Tim. Tom Downey's here. Aaron Jameson. Aaron, looks like you made it back to Amana. Great. I'm just catching up on the comments. I'm kind of running a little late myself. Let's see. Okay, we'll get back to that. Oh, Jeff Ripplinger. Hello, Jeff. Great to have you here. Ian Fox. So happy you're here. Robert Black. Vincent, glad you sent the video. We're going to look at that in a minute. And because that really was helpful. I don't think we need to replace that seal, but I'll talk you through what you should do. So I hope everybody is great. If you're just coming in the stream, be sure and drop a comment over there. Let us know that you're watching and where you're watching from. That's always nice. My fancy soundproof wall is falling apart. I'll give you a quick peek here. I used some adhesive spray, and it's been up there for 2 years now, but it seems like it might be giving up the ghost. I might have to redo the wall. So it's been a really busy week and a really crappy week. The weather has just not cooperated. I still don't have Rich out of here, but we're getting close. We got one of the awning covers, one of the slide awnings replaced today. His daughter Mackenzie's here, and she was a big help. I think she was a little intimidated being on the roof, but I think she got used to it after a bit. And let's see, looks like Tom has been cleaning his coach. He had to remove the range and couldn't believe the yuck behind there. Yeah, I can only imagine. It can get pretty, pretty yucky back there for sure. I was showing Richard how to light the oven today. The oven in mine is a pilot. Has a pilot, so you have to light the pilot and then you got to let it run for a minute so the thermocouple warms up, blah blah blah. Anyway, I was showing him how to run it, and I was thinking I wished I'd cleaned the oven before I turned it over to him, but it's in pretty good shape. The floors turned out great. I might be able to give you a peek of the floor here in a minute, but that video will be coming out Sunday. It's basically done and in the can. I just haven't posted it up to YouTube yet, but it's pretty close. Then let's talk about Vincent's problem. He has got his new rig, the Class C. It's a really nice looking rig, and he sent me this. I was running late. I didn't get a chance to do all this properly tonight, but I do have this video I want to show that he sent, and let me get it here ready, and then I'll flip over to the screen, and let's see, let's bring this up, pause that. Alright, now I think if I go here, that should put you to where you can see the video. Yeah, let me get this out of the way so it's a little cleaner. All right, so I think you can see that. Let's pop it up bigger. There we go. Okay. So what we're looking at here is the slide seal. This is on Vincent's new Class C. And I'll start this and we'll get to watch it come out. So what I'm looking at is right in here, okay? And this is pretty normal. Imagine that's kind of loud. Turn it down. But it looks like when it gets out to the end here, the seal, which is folded under, flaps out. Watch it. Here it comes. And so it peels out like that. And it only peels out a little bit back. It seems like from the picture he sent me earlier, when I first started looking at this problem with him, that it seems like it flaps out a different length away. So, Vincent, here's what I need you to do. We don't want to replace that seal just yet. They can be replaced. I haven't had a chance to research the right seal, so let me caveat that. But what I want you to do right first is get some silicone spray, and just you can get up under there, and that slide topper should lift up, and so you can crawl underneath there. And with that silicone and some kind of a clean towel, microfiber, whatever you have, I want you to spray that seal really well and let it soak in, and reach under there and flip it out all the way across, okay? And then spray it, let it set for a minute, wipe it off, and then fold it under. And then with the towel wet with silicone, I want you to go under that seal, and I want you to clean that seal underneath, okay? And then take a light coat of silicone and spray on the top of the slide out, and then wipe it down. And try that. I think what's happening is, for some reason, it's probably dirty right there at the end of that when the slide's coming out, and that's what's causing that to peel up. The other thing is I can hear the seal squeaking. Let me pop that back up here real quick, and I'll turn the sound up, but not to speak. Just a second here. Let me get this all set up here so that it's proper. And if you listen carefully to this, let me turn it up. Okay, so you can kind of hear the seal squeaking on the roof of the slide out. So try that. Let's give it a good coating of silicone and see if that stops it. And if it doesn't, then we may have to change that. You may need to change that seal. As you saw, it's just held in there with Phillips head screws. It's not difficult to change. You don't have to remove the slide or anything. Again, I guess probably the toughest part is you'll have to crawl underneath your slide topper. But there should be, those slide toppers are typically all 44 inches wide, even though, I mean, there might be 2 or 3 turns on the roll, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there should be room to roll it out and crawl underneath there and do a little work on that seal, or to change it out. So anyway, as always, if you have RV related questions, you can throw them in the chat window. I'm always happy to answer them there. You can email, like Vincent did, to trbolin@gmail.com. You can send questions. Photos are always helpful. I know Two Feathers and I have done some stuff, and I saw her come in. Hi. Via email, and so yeah, I'm always anxious to get your emails. I generally get back to you within 24 hours. At least we'll get started on a conversation, and I can usually help you out. So if you have a particular problem that you think a picture would help, feel free to send it to trbolin@gmail.com, and I'm happy to try to answer your question or provide you with a solution. And Vincent will check back in with us and let us know how that worked for him. Gary D's in. Hi, Gare. So happy to see you're here. Roundtown Scouter's in from Columbus, Ohio. Tim's neighbor, more or less. Eric Myers, he says he has a seal like that. It is a new seal. I get up on a stool after the slide is out a little and start the seal going. So, Eric, yours doesn't flip out automatically. I was going to research that seal. I just haven't had a chance to go and find what the part looks like, and see if I kind of have to wonder on those Thor slides like that if it's not supposed to flip out at the end. But I don't know for sure. But silicone in that seal won't hurt anything. It'll extend the life for sure. So yeah, if you have questions or anything else, throw them over in the chat window. Happy to answer your questions tonight. I'll see if I can pop over here real quick and give you kind of a preview, if I can find it, of Richard's floor. I think, let's see, that's not it. Well, okay, so I don't have it handy here. The produced movie I don't have handy, so I can't. Let's see, this one might work. Let's see what this one is. Okay. Nope, that one's not working either. So while we're sitting here, I'll pop up Premiere and show you a real quick couple clips of Richard's floor. Okay, Robert Black asked me about my opinion on slide toppers. I like them. Okay, I think it protects the top of your slide. I think in hot climates, they're really nice because they're going to keep that direct sun off the top of the slide, and that's going to keep your slide cooler. And, you know, I just changed the bedroom awning. It took about an hour, I guess, something like that, to change the bedroom awning, and that's just the fabric, I should say. We're actually changing the living room awning totally tomorrow. In storage, we had a hell of a windstorm here back in December, like 50-55 mile an hour wind. And out where the RV was parked for winter, there's little to no protection from the wind out there. And so it must have caught the living room slide and snapped it. I went out and I just hurried up and got a couple pipe clamps, hose clamps, and hose clamped it together just to keep it so it wouldn't be banging on the side of the RV. And I must have just caught it, you know, because it hadn't caused any damage other than I could see it was busted. And so that's how I fixed that up. I thought Rich would be in tonight. He might be out eating dinner. He probably got his time zones mixed up. I think it took him a week to get used to being on U.S. time for sleeping. But yeah, if it wasn't for the weather, he'd be done. But the weather's just jumped up and bit us, you know, almost every day. You know, at some point, you know, you have to have certain degrees of temperature to paint and stuff like that. So. I saw something the other day for you guys on the East Coast. Has anybody been out to Great Smoky Mountains Park? I have been through the Blue Ridge. I've been along the Blue Ridge Parkway. In fact, I've driven most of it through Virginia and down into North Carolina. But I've never been to the Smoky Mountains, and so I was just curious if you folks out in the you know, the middle of the country have been out that way. And the other question I have, I'd like to see if we can get a little discussion going around, is what do you think about fuel prices? Diesel is $5.50 a gallon in places, and that's not even California, where it's by now in Cali it's got to be $7 a gallon for diesel. And gas here, regular gas is $4.37 approximately. It's been a long time since I can remember there being more than $1 difference in the price between gasoline and diesel. Normally it's like 20-25 cents. And for those guys with diesel trucks, I did the math on this because I've had several diesel pickups. But for example, I had a 2001 Ford F-250 that I towed a trailer with. And it was a 7.3 Power Stroke, Kind of sorry I ever sold it, but can't look back and say no. But anyway, I did the math, and the difference in the price of diesel, because you get better mileage in a diesel pickup, but the difference in the price of the diesel versus gas for it to pay to own a diesel was 45 cents. So it had to be 45 cents or within 45 cents of the unleaded for it to pay for itself. If it was less than 45 cents, it never paid for itself. At least in the savings in fuel economy, towing or running empty. I would get approximately 16 to 18 rolling down the road with, I had a camper shell on it, right? So I had a Lear topper. And when I was towing the trailer, I'd get about 13, sometimes 12 if I was climbing a lot of mountains. And my buddy and his gasser, who I traveled with quite a bit, he had a Dodge with the gas in it, I think a 5.7, I don't know, it was kind of a little wimpy engine, I thought. Nothing against Dodges, don't go postal on me because I'm railing on Dodges. But he would get 8 miles to gallon towing and about 12.5 to 13 running down the road. So yeah, the difference there I always figured out was 45 cents before it would pay. Let's see. I thought I was going to ask Rich to come over, and before I knew it, it was Tuesday, and I missed it again. You'll get to see him on a couple of videos coming up. When we got his Jeep ready to tow 4 down, which we completed, we put the base plate on, the Blue Ox base plate, because I included my Blue Ox tow bar. We put the Roadmaster Invisibrake in. We did the Blue Ox trailer light setup, which was super easy. I mean, that was plug and play, nothing to it. And I'll have video on all that coming up here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Let me get over here to the comments. I see a few rolling. Slide toppers, got that covered. I don't know if Rich is going. He's not going west. He's going east. They're headed for, I think, Dover. Something like that. Delaware. Can't give Rusty to anyone you know. Too late. Jeff says the wind in Colorado has been crazy. Yeah, it's just been wet and windy here, Usually by May, we're into the 65, 70 degree days, and we haven't had a 70 degree day yet in May. And we're 10 days in, yeah. So yeah, but we need the moisture. I'm not going to complain too much. I'd like to see Rich get down the road, but, or Rick. He goes by Rick. I keep calling him Rich, sorry. Rich to me short, but it's Rick anyway. Yeah, so he'll be getting out of here, I think Sunday is their plan now. Yeah, Tom Downey says, don't roll up the topper with snow on it. Guess I know. Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way too. Yeah, it doesn't work well, does it? Let's see, 2 feathers, you get what you vote for, I suppose. Worse with ice. Tim Meyer says, yeah, it's worse with ice. Guess how I know. So I guess we've all had slide topper issues. That's not surprising. Jeff Ripplinger, who is over in Colorado, says diesel's over $5 a gallon, and standard unleaded is around $4.30. Yeah, that's where we're at here. I bought gas at Costco the other day for $4.25 or something like that, and usually they're 10 to 15 cents cheaper. Tim Meyer says he's not letting fuel costs stop me, but I will be not going way out west this year, staying in within a couple days of home. Yeah, I think that's probably what a lot of people are going to be doing, is trying to stay closer to home. Which reminds me, if you are going someplace that you think you might need a reservation, you might want to get on that now. because I think that a lot of people are going to have the same strategy. They're going to stay close to home, and that's going to make the parks close to home busy, busier than normal. Tom Downey says diesel's $6.40 out there, and he's over in Washington. Aaron, it's $5.20 for diesel and $4.10 in Amana, so that's pretty good. I agree with you, Two Feathers. Tom Downey says he has 150 gallons of diesel in the tank. It's worth more than the coach. Yeah, well, Richard's getting more than more than half a tank, so he's getting 75, 80 gallons of diesel. So what's that? $400 worth right there. Robert Black says he has a 2005 Chevy 2500 HD with the Duramax 6.6. And he gets 23 on the highway empty and 13 on the highway pulling the fifth wheel. It's got 400,000 miles on it. Have you replaced the injectors? I'm betting you have. Rich Kirby's in. Hi, Rich. Rick. I'm going to call you Rich till I don't call you Rich anymore. Sorry about that. Rick Kirby. Rich Kirby. Richard's in. Made it was a Bigfoot. Yeah, I introduced him to my favorite pizza place. I think he's been there quite a few times now. It's pretty good, though. Bigfoot Pizza. Diesel's cheaper to make. Why is it higher than gas? Because they have to remove the sulfur. Anyway, that's what I've been told or understand. The diesel is cheaper to make because it's one of the first fractions that comes off when you're making gasoline. Right, so it has a longer carbon chain, not to get too technical here. So it's one of the first fractions to come off as the temperature comes up. And so, one of the last ones to come off as the temperature comes up. And but they have to remove the sulfur, which I think requires extra work. The EPA rules on sulfur changed, was it 5-6 years ago to 500 ppm, and it used to be 2,000. Don't quote me on that, but I think those are the numbers. And so, yeah, it just costs more money to remove that sulfur, and that purportedly is why it's more expensive. And also, I think diesel, I think the demand for diesel is higher because of all of the over-the-road trucks and that sort of stuff. By the way, I was up near the interstate today and saw quite a few RVs headed south already. Class A's and Class C's. Kim Meyer says 3 weeks ago he paid $5.15 with a 50-cent discount through TSD. And Robert Black's reporting $5.05 in Texas and gasoline is $3.99. Yeah, Texas has really cheap gas taxes though. And I think their transportation costs are lower, and that adds to the cost. Like Tom Downey out there on Whidbey, that's all got to go in a tanker, probably across a ferry. I don't know. I don't imagine they have a pipeline out there. I think it's probably all goes over on the ferry. So that adds a lot of money to it. But that's also BS, okay? Because let me tell you, the fuel terminal for Eastern Idaho is right here in Pocatello, out here by the airport. In fact, about a mile from where I parked the RV this winter. And fuel 50 miles north of here is cheaper than it is here in Pocatello. So when I went to get Rich from the airport, I got gas for $4.19 when gasoline was running $4.45 here in Pocatello. And the diesel was cheaper too. Tom Downey says they got their first 70-degree day. Yeah, I'm expecting one Sunday, I think is going to be a good day here. Ian Fox says, the trip to South Carolina is going to cost me about $1,600 in diesel. I feel your pain, Ian. 2013, I was contracting 1099. And I had a project in San Diego, and I had one up on the Blue Ridge Parkway in Virginia. And I drove back and forth across country 3 times in 13, when diesel was 4 to 4.24. I think the highest, if I remember right, I paid for diesel was 4.40, $4.40 a gallon. But yeah, when you drop $700-800 in your fuel tank, it gets your attention. Yeah, Ian says he assumes he's going to average 12 there and back, 12 miles per gallon. Robert Black says he has not replaced the injectors, but have replaced the glow plugs. Huh? Well, that's surprising because I thought, actually I looked at before I bought. Well, the long short story is that the estate sale where I got the truck camper, there was also a 2011 GMC with the Duramax, but I put my meter on it and it had two bad injectors, and so I walked away from it. I figured that was, I think it's $1,600 to $1,800 to replace those injectors. It might be cheaper if you do your own work. I was just curious. Eric Myers, I like your attitude, dude. I kind of feel the same way. He says, I work for 57 years. I'm not going to adjust my retirement until the money runs out. Fuel costs be damned. I have a plan to live to at least 84. And if I live past 84 and I'm out of money, the state can support me. That's my retirement plan. Let's see here. Two Feathers says she only gets about 10 in her Class C. I must really be heavy. Not necessarily. Those Class Cs are pretty heavy, and you're probably running a V10. Do you have a V10 in that, Two Feathers? And 10 miles per gallon is actually pretty good in the Class C size that you have. Vincent, you could probably expect about the same kind of mileage in yours, right around 10. I think that's actually not bad, Two Feathers. But if you haven't weighed, you might want to go weigh. It's easy to do. Just go to a truck stop with a cat scale and just roll across. And when they ask you your name, just tell them your name and it's an RV, because they'll think you're a truck. And then you go in and pay your $11 or whatever it is and pick up your weigh ticket. I might have one. No. I thought I had some out, but all that paperwork probably got filed. Let's see. At Tom Downey. Aaron's Highway 20 run. Funny. Two Feathers to Tim Myers. I only got about eight and a half on my old Class C. You were doing well, I think. Yeah, I would agree. Jeff Ripplinger comments, RV living is only expensive when the wheels are turning. That's true. Robert Black, the 2005 is an LLY, and every place we take it, they want to buy it. Must be something special about the LLY. I believe there is, and there's a whole series of those, and that some were really good, and like the first ones were really bad, and then the middle ones were good, and then they hit another bad streak. I did quite a lot of reading on the Duramax when I was considering the picking up the pickup that. It was already set up to haul the truck camper, but it just, the injectors, I just didn't want to deal with it. Yes, Two Feathers has a V10. Well, if you're getting 10 miles to gallon with a V10, you're in good shape. I would not complain about that at all. Time for my usual commercial reminder that if you like the video, give me that thumbs up. Those are always greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Ring the notification bell. If you have a minute, run over to my website at trbolin.com, poke around, check out some of the articles I've got posted over there. That's always helpful. And this Sunday we'll have another video out installing the floor in the bedroom of the Dutch Star, Rusty. Again, I think it turned out really good. Let's see. Okay, Vincent RV Life, they clocked 10.4 miles to gallon coming up from Florida. That's pretty good. And so, yeah, and your Class C is about the same size as Two Feathers. And so I think, I think that's good mileage. Um, I wouldn't complain about that for sure. Gary D, who says he's got 18 out of their 2001 Dodge Diesel 4x4 automatic 5.9. That Cummins is a good one. I was trying to decide way back when I bought my Ford. I looked at a Dodge. It's just the Dodge dealer wouldn't deal on it. He thought he had gold mine and was asking a pretty penny for it. I looked at the 1-ton Dodge with the 6-speed standard and the Cummins 5.9. But I ended up with the Ford 7.3 with the automatic 4-wheel drive, of course, both of them. Okay, so any other questions or comments? While I'm waiting for folks, I'll just run over here real quick. I think I can pop this up, and I think I can maybe share a little bit of the floor footage with you here. It'll take just 1 second while I get things warmed up here. All right, so let's come over here and let's bring that up. And we'll go here. And I got to get my monitor ready. And I think, are we good? It should be here, PIP. And then this. Play.
So somewhere I lost the last little bit of footage that I shot finishing up the floor. I have searched and searched, I can't find it. So I'll just give you kind of a verbal wrap up. I'm showing you here the hatch and how I handled that. I basically did the same thing. I took the 3/8 underlayment and I glued it and screwed it to the hatch. Now this hatch was fiberglass, and so what I ended up doing was I used self-tapping sheetrock screws. And so what those did was they pre-drilled a hole in the fiberglass, and that way this fiberglass doesn't explode when you hit it with like a regular screw. It makes a heck of a mess. One thing that perplexed me for a while was how I was going to deal with this little hump right here. This bump in the fiberglass is just there to provide clearance to the engine. When it was carpeted, you didn't really notice it that much, and I was afraid you were going to really notice it. So the strategy I applied was I just got some really dark brown paint, dark brown, and then what I did was I just trimmed this flooring around that hump and just left it exposed. To get the heights to work out between this and this, there wasn't enough clearance here to bring the floor up to completely cover that. Then one other modification I had to make, and this would be specific to the new mower, was this is the cover for the hatch. And because the floor added 3/4 of an inch, I had to take 3/4 of an inch onto the bottom of this. Because the elevations were the same, or because the height was the same, when I cut 3/4 of an inch off, the hump that they had cut in this for this bump worked out perfectly. And
so there's a little sneak preview of this Sunday's video, kind of show you the floor. It turned out really nice. The fit and finish was good. I will say though that working with the engineered flooring was pretty good. It was that snap and click stuff, and it was real snotty about clicking together. I finally gave up trying to, you had to get it just the right angle. And as I mentioned, the subfloor, which was 3/8 particle board, I glued and screwed to the subfloor of the RV, which was OSB. And then I glued and brad nailed through the tongue and then along the edges where I could hide it with trim strips, the flooring down, because as you guys know that have any kind of a towable or RV, as you go down the road, they twist and turn and crab and crank around, and I didn't want that floor moving around. The other strategy I employed was it rained 3/4 of an inch between the day I did the subfloor and the day I did the floor, and the humidity inside of the RV was 62% when I was going out to start to do the floor. And I had the flooring inside acclimating, right? So I wanted it to be at that percent moisture. But the problem is that I had thrown a tarp over it, and it wasn't. So what I was worried about is that the coach was really wet, the flooring was dry, and so things would shrink and swell with the humidity. And so what I did was I just waited a day. I turned the heat on in the RV, and I just heated it up because I hadn't been heating it, right? I mean, there was no need to. But anyway, I just turned it on, left the heat on at like 70 for a day and a half or so, and that drew the humidity back down to around 28%. And everything was, the fit and finish turns out a lot better. I learned that lesson a long time ago when I did the bamboo floor up front. I had done a few pieces. The humidity was really high. I got off the job, went and did something else for a couple days. I went back to it, and all my edges were, fat or thin. It was just, it looked like hell. And so I figured out that it was a problem with acclimating the wood before I put it in and getting it at the same percent moisture as the surroundings, the subfloor, the walls, everything else in the rig. Thank you, Two Feathers. Yes, it turned out very pretty. Good. Okay, Tim Myers has the 5.9 in his journey, though it might be a bit weak, but passed almost everything driving up. Is that Mont Eagle? A few weeks ago. Yeah, that's cool. I think the 5.9 is a rocking engine. Ian Fox says, any good advice on picking a spot in the RV park when they've got tons of open spaces? Well, okay, so there's a couple thoughts there. Some people like to be close to the bathrooms. I tend not to because I think you're going to just get a lot of bathroom traffic. So I always try to find a shady spot, something with some trees either in the spot or nearby. Google Earth is perfect for that kind of stuff. You can zoom in on well, I'll give you a good example here. We'll go look at the park I used to winter at. Since I'm not there anymore, I don't mind doing this. And we'll come over here real quick. It even remembers it. And let me get the satellite on here. Okay. So the spot I was parked in was right, see, there's the bathhouse, right here. Okay. So there was a huge big tree there which gave me nice shade during the early day. In fact, you can see that's my Subaru Crosstrek parked right there. This picture was taken when I only had 2 solar panels on the RV. But what I liked about this place was this whole area out here. That's the Tucson Mountain Park. There is nothing out there but bike trails. There's a big pistol range out here. Right over here is Old Tucson Studios, where they shot like Rio Grande. A bunch of old westerns were all shot here at Old Tucson, which is pretty fun. Saguaro West. Oh, and there's a really good campground too, right there in the Tucson area, the Gilbert Ray Campground. That's really nice. And then Saguaro National Park West. Come on, is right in here. The Arizona Sonora Desert Museum's down there. There's a nice little picnic area there. And then, yeah, this is all the Saguaro National Park West. All through here. So, but if I was going to pick a spot in an RV park, I would look for shade. And I think that's probably, and maybe try not to be too close to the bathrooms or like the swimming pool, unless that's your thing, right? If you want to be close to the accoutrements, the accommodations, then go for it. But I tended to like to try to stay away from it in a shady spot. Okay, I'm going to float back here a little bit and check my comments, make sure I haven't jumped ahead. Tim Myers, he says he needs to watch my lithium video. What did I do to protect my alternator from cooking when charging the house batteries? Okay, in the new Mars, and I don't know about your rig for sure, but in the new Mars, they have a system called the BIRD system, bidirectional isolation relay device or something like that. Okay, and it sits between the alternator and the coach batteries and the chassis batteries. Okay, and so what it does is it monitors the chassis batteries. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. It monitors the chassis batteries. And when the chassis batteries hit 13.7 volts, it switches over and it goes to charging the house batteries. And so it'll charge the house batteries. And when the chassis batteries drop below 13.7, it flips up and charges the chassis batteries. And so that cycling helped not overcook the alternator. The second thing is my alternator's huge. I have like a 260 amp alternator in my rig. It's really weird. A lot of them have 160s, like in most of the Freightliner chassis, you have a 160. For some reason, I have a 260. I don't know if somebody added that at some point in the past, but I went and measured it and to calculate how much amperage I was getting off of it. But the truest sense of the word, you should have a DC to DC charge controller. All right, and the DC to DC charge controller automatically limits how much charge can go to the battery. A big one is 60 amps. The most common ones are 40 amps. And that's the safety factor in there. The nice thing about the BIRD system is it also includes what Newmark called the battery boost. Excuse me. And so for some reason, if your chassis batteries ran down, your starting batteries, you could hit the battery boost, and that would bring the house batteries in line with the chassis batteries, and you could start the rig off your house batteries. Well, I had to use that a couple times in 12 years or 10 years owning the rig. And then the way I protected the batteries themselves is that I had 4 100 amp hour batteries. Each battery had a maximum charge rate of 50 amps, but you add that together, which is 200 amps, and that's more amperage than the alternator was sending to the batteries. And so I never would overcharge the batteries. The last point of that is that rarely, at least with lithiums, when I had my lithiums, rarely would they have been down long and far enough that the alternator on the RV would have been charging them for more than probably an hour maximum. So I had kind of 3 different levels of protection in there, but the safest way is with the DC to DC charge controller. There's a pretty good article. I'll have a video on this at some point in time, Tim, but there is an article on my website about alternator charging your vehicle's, your RV's batteries. And I walk through all the math and everything in there to help you decide how big of a, how much extra you're getting off your alternator, all the steps you need to go to figure it out. Okay, let's see. Catching up. Vincent RV Life, 24-foot Class C. We were light with stuff, as most of it was in storage in Richmond. Yeah. Tom Downey gets 10 to 10.5 with the Cummins. It has a programmer. Okay. It's a 350 jump to 400. Yeah, the Cat 3126 can do that too. But I never really put the chip. I thought about putting a chip in it, but in third gear at $2,000, that coach would climb all day long with 330 horses. And so, I climbed Cajon, Monarch Pass, which is 12.6 over in Colorado, Cajon going into San Diego on what is that, I-10, excuse me. I've climbed all the big passes out west. And like I say, $3,000 or third gear and 2,000 RPMs, that thing could climb at 35, 40 mile an hour all day. And by the way, my Cat averaged over the lifetime I owned it. Yeah, I know I'm nerdy. 8.5 miles to gallon. The high was 11, and the low was 5.5. The high was on I-40 from Kingman, Arizona to like Little Rock. I got 11, and then the low was Cheyenne to Rock Springs, bucking a headwind. I literally could watch the fuel gauge fall. It was eating that much gas or diesel. Probably had a 40 mile an hour headwind. I always hated driving west on I-80. Eastbound, usually not too bad. You got a tailwind pushing you. Yes, Two Feathers says she was going to ask if that was bamboo. Yes, that was engineered bamboo flooring. I had a piece sitting here for a while. I must have put it somewhere. I liked it so much I ordered an extra box and a third or so. I needed 3 boxes to do Rich's rig, but I have a closet, my bedroom closet, I need to put a floor in. And so I'm going to use the rest of it in my bedroom closet. But yeah, and like I say, I didn't trust the click together in the RV. In my closet, I won't worry about it. It's snapped together, it'll be fine. That stuff never moves. Tom Downey would never give up our carpet. Yeah, I had carpet in there, but it was just tired. And Rich asked me to put the hardwood in and to match it to the front. And the flooring I put in there is as close as I could get. The look, the look of it was pretty damn close. The difference is that the flooring up front was 3.5 inch consistent, and the floor that was in the back, there was a 3.5, a 5.25, or 5 1/8, and a 5 7/8. And of course, I adjusted the pattern so that I didn't have really any micro teeny pieces around corners, and I moved the pattern a little bit so that the end of the bed pedestal wasn't sitting, when it was, when the bed's out, sitting right on a seam, stuff like that. It was easy to work with, though, and went right down. I didn't have hardly any issues with it at all. Eric says he has a shedding dog, Dawn. Tim doesn't have the bird system. Yeah, I think that's... Tom, do you have that in your Spartan? But I think that was... Newmar's done that for a long time, since the early 2000s that I know of. But yeah, it's a pretty handy little system. Eric Meyer says, don't want carpet too hard to clean, not for boondocking. Yeah, when I put the hardwood in the front, the bamboo the solid bamboo up front. I did that in I want to say 2012. Yeah, fall. It would have been in December of 2012, November, December of 2012. And man, it made all the difference. But I did like the carpet in the back on my Tootsies. Tim Meyer's catching up. Mine is okay. He has the 160 amp alternator. We'll probably have to install either a BIM or a DC to DC charger. Yeah, you're probably better off with a DC to DC. And I thought I saw Victron finally had come out with a 60 amp uh, uh, DC to DC charge controller. The thing I like about the Victrons is they monitor the batteries too, and so they won't overcharge your batteries. The really fancy Victrons, which aren't that expensive, even had temperature monitoring on the batteries. Uh, the Renology, I don't know. I still got to research that because I'm going to need a DC to DC charge controller for my truck camper. I have the batteries. I bought Battleborns for it, but I don't have a charge controller yet. And I have 500 amps of solar to put on it. Catching up. Okay, Tim Myers, I have the battery boost as well. Good, yeah, that's a really handy option. And most DC to DC applications remove that battery boost option. Yeah, I think it's great. Tom Downey says, mine won't do that. My battery will go dead without any charging. Chassis battery, that is. Yeah. You don't have a battery maintainer solar panel on the roof? When I replaced my roof, I actually upped the size of mine. I went from a 10 watt to a 20 watt. And I was showing Rick, I'm going to call him Rich. I'm sorry. I was showing Richard today that when the light's on, it's charging. There's a little indicator in the dash. And it was turned out today, and I flipped on, and the chassis batteries were at 14.2 volts. Tim Myers, I could bring my 5.9 up to 325 with the chip, but the Allison 2500 is only rated for 300, so no chip. Yeah, you got to make sure that you're not overpowering that transmission for sure, because transmissions are expensive. Jeff Ripplinger, what do I think of SOK batteries? I'm looking at running them to replace my house batteries versus the Battleborn. We had a nice discussion about the SOKs. It's funny you'd ask, Jeff, about, it was probably maybe right after the first of the year. A fellow up in Oregon working for the school districts up there. I think it was Oregon. But he was asking me about the SOKs. And they looked really good. I mean, I compared the stats and I looked at them really closely. The only thing with the SOKs that I could find that was really a deterrent was when they talk about charge rates on lithium batteries, on any battery, but lithium batteries in this particular case, some companies give you the maximum charge rate and a recommended charge rate. Now on SOKs, the recommended charge rate was 20 amp hours, or 20 amps. The maximum was 50. If you are charging at a rate more than the recommended, you're reducing the life of that battery a little bit, okay? That's the only downfall that I could find with them. Otherwise, the stats, they were all about the same. The only implication there is that it would take a little longer to charge them, and you would want to be careful that you have your inverter set to charge with the, just charge at the correct rate. And by the way, most inverters can charge lithium batteries. Okay. Any inverter that's programmable that you could set up the characteristics in. And so if you have a Xantrex, if you have Magnums, what's the Sun Power, Sun Gold, one of those, I think those all have programmable charge settings. And so you can adjust how much charge current's going out of your inverter